You might be astonished by what I'm about to share with you today. In fact, this message may serve as a wake-up call for many of you. You've been searching, praying, and waiting for a sign from God about your next steps, and here it is. Today, I'm going to unveil something powerful that God wants you to begin doing immediately. This isn't just a suggestion, this is divine guidance meant for you at this precise moment in your life. But before we get into it, if this message resonates with you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to The Chosen Ones, and leave a comment with 77 to signal to the universe that you're ready to receive divine guidance. Replay this video to absorb all its energy and make the message even stronger. If you are truly one of the chosen, you'll stay with me until the end. If not, you might not make it that far. Now let's dive into what God is calling you to start doing today. Chapter 1. The Divine Call to Act. God has been patiently waiting for you to take action, and the fact that you're hearing this message now is a clear sign that the time is upon you. There is something stirring within you, perhaps something you've been trying to ignore or suppress. But this feeling won't fade away, because it's not just a passing thought, it's a divine call. You may have noticed this feeling becoming stronger lately. A quiet yet persistent voice urging you to step into your true purpose. This isn't a coincidence. God is summoning you to rise, and that feeling in your soul is His way of telling you the moment has come. You may have been waiting for a sign, wondering when the right time to take action would come. But here's the truth, the time is now. This calling to something greater is an invitation to realize your full potential. There's a reason you're hearing this message at this very moment. God has seen your journey, your struggles, and your growth, and He knows exactly where you need to go next. But He's waiting for you to take that first step. Many people believe that by being patient enough, God will eventually bring their dreams and desires to them. But that's only part of the equation. While faith is crucial, God also requires action. He's asking you to meet Him halfway. The miracles and blessings you've been waiting for are on the other side of your willingness to act. It's not about waiting for the perfect time, the ideal conditions, or the moment when you feel completely ready. The truth is, you may never feel fully prepared, and that's where faith steps in. God is asking you to trust Him enough to begin moving forward, even when the path ahead isn't entirely clear. You might be wondering, what is it that I need to start doing? This can be different for everyone, but deep down you already know. Perhaps it's something you've been avoiding because it seems too big, too difficult, or too uncertain. It could be a passion, a calling, or a purpose that feels beyond your current abilities. But remember this, God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. If He has placed a desire in your heart, it's because He already knows you have what it takes to fulfill it. He's not asking you to have all the answers right now. He's simply asking you to trust and begin. Fear and doubt often hold us back from stepping into our purpose. Maybe you're afraid of failure, or perhaps you're uncertain about where the path will lead. But God sees beyond your fears. He sees your potential, your gifts, and the unique path He's laid out just for you. The doors that seem closed or impossible to open will begin to move when you act in faith. As you take that first step, God will meet you with guidance, strength, and unexpected opportunities. The beauty of taking action in alignment with God's will is that you are never alone. His guidance is with you every step of the way, offering clarity, wisdom, and the resources you need to keep moving forward. This doesn't mean the journey will always be easy or without challenges, but it does mean you are divinely supported. You have everything you need within you because God has placed it there. Often we wait for external validation, a clear sign, or a perfect opportunity before we start. But God is asking you to leap first. He's asking you to trust that the moment you move, things will begin to shift. The doors that once seemed locked will start to open, the obstacles that felt impossible to overcome will shrink, and the path that looked unclear will begin to illuminate. This is how God works. He responds to faith in action. Now, let's talk about the importance of timing. You may have been waiting for the right time, but the divine truth is that there's no better time than the present. God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with our human sense of timing. Understanding that sometimes we wait for circumstances to change before we feel ready to move forward is key. However, often it's our actions that create the changes we've been waiting for. The opportunity you've been seeking may not appear until you take that first step. God's timing rarely aligns with our own. We want things to happen on our schedule, but God sees the bigger picture and knows the perfect moment for everything to unfold. The fact that you're hearing this message right now is proof that your time is here. You no longer need to wait. You are ready, even if you don't feel it. God has prepared you for this moment, and He's asking you to trust His timing, even if it feels unexpected. It's easy to let fear, doubt, or uncertainty hold you back from taking action. But remember that every great journey begins with a single step. God is calling you to take that step in faith. Today, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. It doesn't have to be a huge or overwhelming action. Even the smallest step forward can set the wheels of divine motion in place. When you act in alignment with God's will, everything starts to fall into place. You'll see shifts that you never expected, opportunities will arise, and the right people will come into your life to help you on your journey. But none of this can happen if you stay where you are. God is calling you to move, to act, and to trust that He has already prepared the way for you. Whatever has been pulling at your heart, whatever dream or calling you've been hesitant to follow, take this as a sign that God is speaking directly to you right now. Start today. Take that first step, no matter how small it may seem. As you move, the path will become clearer and the blessings will begin to flow. God has incredible plans for you, but He is waiting for you to act. Chapter 2. Breaking through the fear and doubt. As you embark on this journey, the first challenges you are likely to face will be fear and doubt. These two forces are often the biggest barriers between where you are now and the life God has called you to live. It's perfectly normal to feel scared or uncertain about taking that first step, especially when the road ahead isn't fully clear. But here's the truth. Fear is a tool that the enemy uses to prevent you from stepping into your purpose. It builds a wall between you and the destiny that God has already planned for you. Fear may tell you that you're not good enough, not ready, or that you'll fail if you try. Doubt might whisper that you're incapable of facing the challenges ahead. These voices can be loud and persistent, but they are not the truth. God has already equipped you with everything you need to fulfill your purpose. If He's calling you to act, it's because He knows you are ready, even if you don't feel like it. Think about the times in your life when fear has held you back. How many opportunities did you miss because you were too afraid to take a leap? How many dreams did you put on hold because doubt convinced you that you weren't capable? Now imagine what your life could look like if you stopped letting fear dictate your actions. If you moved forward in faith, knowing that God is with you every step of the way, how much more could you achieve? The key to overcoming fear and doubt is remembering who you are, and more importantly, whose you are. You are a child of God, and that means you have access to His divine strength, wisdom, and guidance. You don't need to rely solely on your own abilities or understanding. God will provide what you need as you move forward. Fear might still appear, but it doesn't have to control you. You can feel the fear and act anyway, trusting that God's plan is bigger than any obstacle in your path. One of the most effective ways to conquer fear and doubt is through prayer and reflection. When you feel uncertain, take time to connect with God. Ask Him for clarity, for strength, and for the courage to move forward in spite of your fears. Remember that God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. Hold on to this truth when doubt threatens to take hold. Doubt, like fear, can be paralyzing. It can make you question whether you're truly capable of accomplishing what God has called you to do. But doubt is nothing more than a distraction. It's a tactic the enemy uses to keep you from realizing your full potential. God has already seen the end from the beginning. He knows exactly what you're capable of, even if you don't yet. So when doubt starts to creep in, remind yourself of God's promises. He has plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. The truth is, the greatest achievements in life often come after we push through our greatest doubts. The enemy wants you to believe that you are not enough, but God knows you are. But God is calling you to rise above those lies and to trust in Him rather than relying solely on your own understanding. When you lean on God, your faith will begin to overpower your doubts. So today, commit to pushing past your fears and doubts. Take that first step, no matter how small it may seem. God is asking you to begin moving in faith, trusting that He will guide you through the uncertainties. The more you trust in Him, the less control fear and doubt will have over you. Chapter 3. Embracing your divine purpose. Now that you've begun to move beyond fear and doubt, the next step is to fully embrace your divine purpose. This is the reason you were created, the unique calling that only you can fulfill. Many people spend their lives searching for their purpose, but if you're hearing this message, it's likely that you already have a sense of what that purpose is. It's that inner knowing, the pull towards something greater. It's the vision that keeps coming back to you, even when you try to set it aside. Your divine purpose is not just about what you do, it's about who you are. It's about the gifts, talents, and passions that God has placed within you and how you can use them to make a difference in the world. It's about living in alignment with God's will for your life, walking the path He has set before you, and using your gifts to serve others. For some, discovering their purpose feels like a clear, undeniable moment of revelation. For others, it's a slower, more gradual process of unfolding. Regardless of how it comes, the important thing is recognizing that your purpose is not something you have to search for outside of yourself. It's already within you. God planted it there long before you were born. Your responsibility is to cultivate it, nurture it, and allow it to grow. This may require stepping outside of your comfort zone. It could mean letting go of the expectations others have placed on you or the limitations you've placed on yourself. Living in alignment with your divine purpose requires faith and trust in God's plan, even when it doesn't seem logical from a worldly perspective. It requires you to believe that you were created for a reason and that your life has meaning beyond daily tasks and routines. Embracing your purpose isn't always easy. It can be challenging, especially when the path ahead isn't clear. You may encounter resistance from those around you, or even from within. But remember, God's plans for your life are far greater than any obstacles you will face. When you align with His will, you are aligning with the most powerful force in the universe, stepping into your true self, the person God created you to be. So how do you begin to fully embrace your purpose? Start by seeking God in everything you do. Make it a priority to spend time in prayer, asking for His guidance and direction. Ask Him to reveal your purpose to you and be open to the ways He may speak, through opportunities, conversations, or even quiet moments of reflection. God will show you the way if you are willing to listen. Next, take action. Living in alignment with your purpose requires more than just understanding it. It requires you to act on it. This might mean taking a leap of faith into a new career, starting a project that feels daunting, or stepping into a leadership role you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, know that God is with you, guiding your steps and giving you the strength to move forward. Finally, trust the process. Your purpose may not be fully realized overnight. It will take time to unfold, and you may face challenges along the way. But God's timing is perfect. He will bring everything together in the right way at the right time. Trust that every step you take is leading you closer to the fulfillment of your divine calling. Chapter 4. The Power of Faith in Action. Faith is the foundation of your relationship with God, but faith only becomes transformative when paired with action. You can have all the faith in the world, but without movement, without taking tangible steps in the direction God is leading you, you'll never see the fullness of His plan unfold. Faith, at its core, is a trust in the unseen, but action brings that faith into reality. God is asking you not just to believe, but to take the necessary steps that will lead you toward your divine purpose. It's important to remember that faith doesn't mean having all the answers. In fact, faith often requires you to take the first step without knowing what the second or third will look like. It's about trusting that as you move forward, God will provide what you need along the way. The path may not always be clear, but with each step of faith, God will illuminate the next part of the journey. Think about moments when you hesitated to act, waiting for the perfect time or the ideal circumstances. How many opportunities passed you by because you didn't take that leap of faith? God isn't asking you to wait until everything is perfectly aligned. He's asking you to move now, trusting that He will make a way where there seems to be no way. One of the most difficult aspects of faith in action is overcoming the fear of failure. You might fear that things won't work out as you hope, but remember, God doesn't ask for perfection. He asks for progress. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to His plan. Even if you stumble or things don't go as you planned, God will use every experience to guide, teach, and shape you into the person He created you to be. Another key to faith in action is perseverance. There will be times when the journey feels long and you might want to give up. But God calls you to keep going, to keep believing, and to keep moving forward, even when the road is difficult. The Bible says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." Galatians 6:9. Your faith in action must be accompanied by endurance. Trust that the seeds you're planting now will bear fruit in God's perfect timing. Faith in action also means being open to the unexpected. Sometimes God's plan will look different from what you envisioned. You might have a specific goal in mind, but God's plans are often far greater than what we can imagine. Be open to detours, changes in direction, and surprises along the way. When you act in faith, you allow God to work through you in ways that exceed your understanding. Ultimately, faith in action is about co-creating with God. He has placed dreams, desires, and purpose in your heart, and now He's asking you to partner with Him to bring those dreams to life. Your role is to take the steps He's calling you to take, and His role is to guide, protect, and provide for you every step of the way. As you move in faith, you'll find that God's blessings and opportunities will meet you exactly where you are as you take those steps of faith. Chapter 5. Recognizing God's voice in your life. One of the most profound aspects of walking in your divine purpose is learning how to recognize God's voice. Hearing from God isn't always about a dramatic revelation or an audible voice. More often, God speaks to us in the stillness of our hearts, through subtle signs, or even through the circumstances we encounter. The key is to be open, attentive, and willing to listen. In a world filled with distractions, noise, and competing influences, it can be challenging to discern God's voice among the many voices seeking our attention. But rest assured, God is always speaking, and His voice is full of love, guidance, and wisdom. Sometimes it's a gentle nudge or a quiet pull in a particular direction. Other times, it's a strong conviction in your spirit, letting you know that you're either on the right path or warning you when something isn't aligned with His will. One of the most effective ways to hear from God is through prayer and meditation. When you take time to quiet your mind and focus on God, you create space for Him to speak. Prayer isn't just about asking for things. It's about building a relationship with your Creator, opening your heart and allowing His wisdom to flow into your life. Make it a habit to spend time in prayer daily, not just when you need something, but to deepen your connection with God. As you do this, you'll begin to recognize His voice more clearly. Another way God speaks to us is through His Word. The Bible is filled with timeless wisdom and guidance that applies to every aspect of our lives. When you read Scripture, you're not just reading words on a page, you're engaging with the living Word of God. There will be moments when a verse stands out, speaking directly to your situation and offering clarity, direction, or comfort. Make it a practice to read the Bible regularly, trusting that God will reveal what you need to hear at the right time. God also uses people to speak into our lives. You might receive confirmation of something you've been praying about through a conversation with a friend, a message from a pastor, or even the words of a stranger. Be open to the ways God may use those around you to communicate His will. However, it's important to use discernment. Not every voice is from God, and not every piece of advice is divinely inspired. Pray for wisdom to discern which messages are truly from Him. Circumstances and experiences are another way God communicates. Sometimes doors will close and new opportunities will open, guiding you toward the direction you're meant to go. Pay attention to the patterns in your life, when things flow smoothly and when obstacles arise. These can be signs that God is either guiding you towards something or protecting you from something that isn't meant for you. The key to recognizing God's voice is to remain open and surrendered. When you approach life with a heart open to God's guidance, you'll begin to see His hand in everything. You'll notice the small miracles, the divine appointments, and the ways He is constantly orchestrating events for your good. Cultivate a mindset of awareness where you're always listening for His voice, even in the most unexpected places. God's voice will always align with His character. He is a God of love, peace, and truth. When you hear something that aligns with those qualities, you can trust it's from Him. If a thought or message brings fear, confusion, or discouragement, it's likely not from God. He is not the author of chaos or fear, but of clarity and purpose. Chapter 6. Overcoming the resistance to obey. Obedience to God's call is one of the greatest challenges we face as chosen ones. While we may hear His voice, understand His will, and even sense the direction He is pushing us toward, there is often an internal battle that arises. This resistance to obey doesn't come from a lack of faith, but from deeper struggles. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, or reluctance to leave behind the familiar. Yet, it's in these moments of resistance that your faith is truly tested. God may ask you to step outside your comfort zone, to walk into uncharted territory where you don't have all the answers, and that can feel terrifying. There's a natural instinct to stay in safe, predictable spaces, but God is not calling you to be stagnant. He is calling you to grow, evolve, and step into a larger, more fulfilling purpose. The first step in overcoming resistance is acknowledging it for what it is, a test of your faith. You may have doubts and wonder if you're truly capable of doing what God is asking of you. But the truth is, God wouldn't place a calling on your life if He didn't already know you were equipped to fulfill it. It's not about your current abilities or resources. It's about God working through you. He doesn't need you to have everything figured out. He just needs your willingness to obey, trust, and take the first step, even if it's a small one. One of the keys to overcoming resistance is recognizing that fear is not from God. The Bible tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. When fear arises, it's a distraction from the enemy, trying to prevent you from stepping into the greatness God has planned for you. Recognize fear for what it is, false evidence appearing real, and choose to move forward in faith, knowing that God's plans for you are always for your good. As you step into obedience, you'll find that God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. He will provide the guidance, resources, and support you need as you move forward. Obedience requires surrender, trusting that even when you don't have all the answers, God does. He sees the bigger picture and will lead you to the fulfillment of your purpose in His perfect timing. Remember, God is always working for your good, and when you align yourself with His will, you are stepping into a life of purpose, blessing, and abundance, maybe closer than you think. The breakthrough that follows obedience is often on the other side of the very step you're hesitating to take. Chapter 7. The breakthrough that follows obedience. There is a divine breakthrough waiting for you on the other side of your obedience. When you take that first step, no matter how small or uncertain, it sets off a spiritual chain reaction that puts things into motion. This is where faith meets action and the miraculous begins to unfold. God's power is released when you act in faith, bringing transformation, blessings, and the fulfillment of His promises into your life. Obedience is not always easy, and the breakthrough doesn't always happen immediately. Sometimes there is a period of waiting, testing, and perseverance. But you can trust that God is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet see. He is aligning people, circumstances, and opportunities to meet you right where your faith begins. Every small act of obedience draws you closer to the manifestation of His purpose for your life. Often, the breakthrough arrives when you least expect it. It may not look like what you had imagined or happen according to the timeline you anticipated, but God's timing is always perfect. The waiting, the tests, and the moments of doubt are all part of His process, designed to strengthen you, grow your faith, and prepare you for the greater things that are coming. God's blessings are not just about what He wants to give you, but about who He wants you to become during the journey. Think of the stories in the Bible where God's people were called to obedience before they ever saw the promise. Moses was called to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, not knowing how God would part the Red Sea. Abraham was called to leave everything he knew, trusting that God would lead him to the land of promise. Even Jesus, in His human form, obeyed the Father's will, knowing that His sacrifice would bring salvation to the world. In each of these stories, the breakthrough didn't come before the act of obedience. It followed it. What does this mean for you? It means that whatever God is calling you to do today, even if it seems small or insignificant, could be the very thing that triggers the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Your obedience is the key that unlocks the door to your next season. It's what positions you for the blessings, opportunities, and divine appointments that are on their way to you. In this moment, you have a choice. Will you stay in your comfort zone, resisting the call of God on your life? Or will you take that step of faith, trusting that God has something far greater for you on the other side of your obedience? The decision is yours, but remember this: God is ready to meet you at the point of your faith. He is ready to show up in ways that will amaze you, but He is waiting for you to take that first step. The breakthrough you've been praying for, the answers you've been seeking, and the blessings you've been hoping for are closer than you think.